Hey guys, welcome back to Cyber Platter. Today we'll learn about some interview question and answers related to IT and IT audit. This is part 1, so there'll be many other parts. If you want to learn about other cybersecurity topics like identity and access management or incident response, access control, cloud security, we have different videos. I will link it in the description box. We also have videos on other interview topics like EDR, SIM, vulnerability management, networking, SOC, scenario based. I will link that as well in the description box. So the first question is, explain what an IT audit, that is information technology audit, is and its importance for an organization. An IT audit is a systematic evaluation of an organization's information technology systems, infrastructure, processes, and controls. This can include hardware, software, data, network infrastructure, and related policies and procedures. The goal of an IT audit is to ensure that the IT assets are used efficiently, that data and systems are secure, and that the organization complies with relevant laws, regulations, and industry standards. Now let's look at the importance of an IT audit for an organization. First one is security assessment. IT audits help identify vulnerabilities, weaknesses, and security risks within an organization's IT systems. This is crucial for safeguarding sensitive data and protecting against cyber threats and breaches. Next one, compliance verification. IT audits assess an organization's adherence to legal and regulatory requirements. This is particularly important for industries subject to strict compliance standards such as healthcare, that is HIPAA, and financial services like SOX. Next one is risk management. By identifying and mitigating IT related risks, IT audits assist organizations in reducing the potential for financial loss, reputational damage, and operational disruptions. Next one is operational efficiency. IT audits evaluate the efficiency and effectiveness of an organization's IT processes and infrastructure. This helps to identify opportunities for cost savings and process improvements. Next one is resource allocation. Audits can aid organizations in optimizing resource allocation. This is done by identifying areas where investments in technology and IT staff can have the most significant impact. Next is stakeholder assurance. For stakeholders such as customers, investors, and regulators, IT audits provide assurance that an organization's IT systems and controls are robust and trustworthy. Next one is continuous improvement. IT audits offer a feedback mechanism for organizations to continuously enhance their IT security, operations, and governance practices. Next is alignment with business goals. Ensuring that IT systems support and align with the organization's strategic objectives is a key aspect of IT audits. It helps maintain a strong connection between IT and business goals. So, in summary, IT audits are essential for organizations because they provide a structured way to evaluate the security, compliance, efficiency, and effectiveness of IT systems. By addressing IT risks and weaknesses, organizations can better protect their assets, improve operations, and ensure they meet legal and regulatory requirements. This ultimately contributes to the organization's overall success and resilience. Let's move on to the next question. Explain the IT audit process. So, conducting an IT audit involves a systematic step by step process to evaluate an organization's information technology systems, infrastructure, and controls. Now, let's see that process step by step. Step 1 is to define audit objectives and scope. The objective definition should clearly define the goals and the objectives of the IT audit. Like, what are you trying to achieve through the audit? Common objectives include assessing IT security, compliance, or operational efficiency. And then specify the scope of the audit by identifying the systems, processes, and areas that will be audited. Ensure that the scope is well defined and agreed upon. Step 2 is to plan the audit. Develop a detailed audit plan that outlines the audit's goals, methodology, timeline, and resource allocation. Consider using a risk based approach to prioritize audit areas. Next one is to assemble the audit team. Select auditors with the appropriate expertise, knowledge, and experience for the audit. This may include IT professionals, cybersecurity experts, or compliance specialists. Ensure that the audit team maintains independence and objectivity to provide unbiased results. Step 4 is to conduct a risk assessment. In this, we have risk identification and risk prioritization. So, first, you identify potential risks that could impact the organization's IT systems and data, and then prioritize identified risks based on their potential impact and likelihood. Consider using a risk matrix. Step 5 is data collection. Collect relevant data, including policies, procedures, configurations, logs, system configurations, and security controls. Ensure that sensitive data is handled and stored securely in compliance with data protection regulations. Step 6 is the audit procedures or fieldwork. That is, execute the audit procedures as outlined in the audit plan. This may involve reviewing access controls and permissions, scanning the network for vulnerabilities, conducting penetration testing, or reviewing documents and records. Step 7 is assess IT controls. Evaluate the effectiveness of IT controls, including security controls, access controls, change management procedures, and more. Next, determine whether controls are designed effectively and operating as intended to mitigate identified risks. Step 8 is to analyze findings. Analyze the audit findings in detail, assess their potential impact on the organization and its IT environment. Also, identify the root cause of issues to address underlying problems, not just symptoms. Step 9 is report findings. Prepare a comprehensive audit report that includes executive summary, audit objectives and scope, methodology and criteria used, summary of findings and observations, recommendations for improvement, management's response and action plans, targeted timelines for implementing improvements. Step 10 is discuss findings with management. Present the audit report to relevant stakeholders, including senior management. Engage in a constructive discussion to ensure mutual understanding of findings and recommendations. Step 11 is follow up. Continuously monitor the implementation of recommended actions and improvements. Conduct follow up audits to verify that issues have been resolved. Don't forget to maintain documentation of the status of action plans and their resolution for future reference. Step 12 is document everything. Maintain a complete audit trail, including documentation, records, and communication related to the audit. Document any deviations from the audit plan and the reasons for these changes. Step 13 is continuous improvement. Use insights from the audit to identify areas for process improvement. Apply lessons learned to enhance the organization's IT systems, security, and compliance practices. Step 14 is stay compliant. Ensure that the audit process remains compliant with all applicable laws, regulations, and industry standards. This includes data privacy regulations and ethical guidelines for auditors. Then the 15th step is professional development. Invest in professional development and training for the audit team to stay updated on best practices, emerging trends, and changes in relevant regulations. This is vital for maintaining audit effectiveness. So, by following these steps, you can conduct a comprehensive and effective IT audit that evaluates the organization's IT systems, security, and compliance while providing recommendations for improvement. Adapt these steps to your specific IT audit needs and regulatory requirements. Let's move on to the next question. How do you stay informed about the latest developments in IT security and compliance to ensure your audits are up to date? Let's see some of the ways an IT auditor can stay up to date. Professional organizations and associations. Joining and actively participating in professional organizations and associations related to IT audit, information security, and compliance is essential. Organizations like ISACA, that is Information Systems Audit and Control Association, and ISC Square, offer access to valuable resources, conferences, webinars, and publications that provide updates on the latest developments in the field. Next is continuing education. IT auditors should engage in continuous learning and professional development, pursuing certifications like CISA, that is Certified Information Systems Auditor, CISP, Certified Information Systems Security Professional, CSIM, Certified Information Security Manager, requires ongoing education and renewal, which helps auditors stay current with industry trends. Next one is online resources. Utilize online resources such as websites, blogs, forums, and news outlets dedicated to IT security and compliance. Subscribing to newsletters, RSS feeds, or following relevant social media accounts can help you receive timely updates on industry news and best practices. Next is training and webinars. Attend training sessions, webinars, workshops offered by reputable organizations, training providers, or industry experts. These events often cover emerging threats, new regulations, and best practices. Next is networking. Build a professional network within the IT audit and information security community. Interacting with peers, colleagues, and experts can provide valuable insights and information sharing opportunities. Next one is vendor updates. Keep track of updates and advisories from technology vendors and software providers. Many vulnerabilities and security patches are released regularly, and being informed about these updates is essential for understanding the IT security landscape. Next one is regulatory authorities. Monitor updates and guidance from regulatory authorities and industry specific organizations that are relevant to the organizations you audit. For instance, the US Securities and Exchange Commission, that is SEC, the Payment Card Industry Security Standards Council, that is PCI SSC, Health and Human Services, HHS, are regulatory bodies with valuable information. Next is security and compliance conferences. Attend industry conferences and events focused on IT security, audit, and compliance. These events offer opportunities to hear from experts, participate in workshops, and learn from emerging trends. Next one is collaboration. Collaborate with IT and information security teams within your organization as well as external consultants. This is to exchange information and insights. Regular meetings and discussions can help identify areas of concern and stay updated. Next is security and compliance publications. Read books, white papers, and research papers authored by experts in IT security and compliance. These publications often provide in depth analysis and recommendations. Next one is Next one is cybersecurity threat intelligence. Leverage threat intelligence feeds and services that provide information on the latest cyber threats, vulnerabilities, and attack techniques. These feeds can help you understand current risks and potential audit areas. Next is government and industry reports. Explore reports published by government agencies, industry groups, and cybersecurity organizations. These reports often contain valuable data and insights about emerging threats and trends. So, staying informed about IT security and compliance is an ongoing process. IT auditors should make continuous learning and staying updated with industry developments a part of their professional routine to ensure that their audits remain relevant and effective. Let's move on to the next question. Describe your experience with conducting IT audits, including the types of audits you have performed, for example, cybersecurity, compliance, or IT general controls audits. So, you can say, I have significant experience in conducting various types of IT audits, which has provided me with a well rounded perspective on assessing IT systems, security, and compliance. My audit experience includes first one cybersecurity audits. You can say I have conducted numerous cybersecurity audits to assess the organization's security posture. These audits involve evaluating the effectiveness of security controls, identifying vulnerabilities, and ensuring that best practices are followed to protect against cyber threats. I have examined areas such as network security, endpoint protection, intrusion detection, and incident response. Next, compliance audits. I have conducted compliance audits to verify that organizations adhere to relevant laws, regulations, and industry standards. This includes assessments of regulatory compliance like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, and industry specific compliance like SOX for financial services and internal policies. So you can say that this includes assessments of regulatory compliance, industry specific compliance, and internal policies. My role has been to evaluate processes, controls, and documentation to ensure compliance and to provide recommendations for improvement. Next one is IT General Controls Audit. I have experience in performing IT General Controls audits, which focuses on the fundamental controls that underpin an organization's IT environment. These audits assess areas like access controls, change management, data security, backup and recovery processes. The objective is to ensure the overall integrity, confidentiality, and availability of IT systems and data. Next is operational audits. I have also conducted operational audits with a specific focus on IT operations. These audits examine the efficiency and effectiveness of IT processes and resource allocation. They aim to identify areas for cost savings, process improvements, and optimization of IT operations. Next one is risk assessments. I have conducted IT risk assessments to identify and prioritize IT related risks and vulnerabilities. These assessments help organizations understand potential threats and their impact. This will allow them to allocate resources to mitigate the most significant risks effectively. Next one is data security audits. Evaluating data security has been a core part of my audit work. This includes assessing data access controls, encryption practices, data classification, and data loss prevention mechanisms to ensure data integrity and protection. So, you can also add by saying my experience with these various types of IT audits has provided me with a well rounded perspective on the IT audit process, enabling me to assess an organization's IT environment comprehensively and offer recommendations for enhancing security, compliance, and efficiency. I remain committed to staying current with emerging trends and best practices in the field to provide valuable insights during audits. Let's go to the next question. How do you ensure the independence and objectivity required for an IT auditor's role when dealing with internal stakeholders and management? So, ensuring independence and objectivity is a crucial aspect of an IT auditor's role because this helps maintain the integrity and credibility of the IT process. So let's see some of the ways how this can be achieved. IT auditors should adhere to professional standards and codes of ethics, such as those provided by organizations like ISACA and ISE Squared. These standards emphasize the importance of independence and objectivity in the audit process. Next is to maintain clear reporting lines. Ensure that the audit function operates independently and reports directly to the highest level of governance, such as the board of directors or an audit committee. This structure helps protect the audit team's independence. Next one is avoid conflicts of interest. Identify and disclose any potential conflicts of interest that may compromise independence. This includes financial interests, personal relationships, or any other factors that might influence objectivity. Next is objective risk assessment. Conduct a risk assessment at the beginning of the audit to identify potential areas of bias or undue influence. Mitigate these risks by involving additional team members or seeking guidance from higher level authorities. Next way is to document the audit plan, methodology, and the findings meticulously. Clear documentation helps demonstrate the audit's objectivity and transparency. Next is to maintain a professional, skeptical mindset during the audit process. Approach the audit with the mindset of trust but verify. Be open to finding issues even if it challenges the status quo. Next, engage in periodic reviews and oversight by senior audit management or an audit committee. These reviews can provide an additional layer of objectivity and ensure that audit procedures are being conducted fairly. Next is to communicate audit objectives, scope, and findings clearly and impartially. Avoid making subjective judgments or opinions that could compromise objectivity. Next, ensure that audit findings and recommendations are not influenced by undue pressure or external factors. Decision making should be based on facts and evidence. Next one is whistleblower mechanism is nothing but to ensure that there is a mechanism for staff to report concerns about any actions that may compromise independence, such as management interference. Encourage staff to use the mechanism without fear of retaliation. Next is training and education. Stay updated with the latest auditing standards and best practices to maintain professional competency and objectivity. Next one is consultation and second opinions. Seek advice and consultation from colleagues or external experts when facing complex or contentious issues during the audit. This can help ensure that audit judgments are objective. Next is, if available, work closely with an independent audit committee that oversees the audit function, reviews audit plans, and helps ensure independence. So, by following these principles and practices, an IT auditor can maintain independence and objectivity, which are essential for conducting fair and credible audits. These measures not only protect the audit function but also help build trust with stakeholders and management. Let's go to the next question. What factors do you consider when setting audit objectives and priorities? First is regulatory and legal requirements. Determine the regulatory requirements and legal obligations that apply to the organization, as non compliance can lead to legal consequences. Next is business impact. Assess how potential issues in IT systems or controls can impact the organization's core business operations, financial stability, and reputation. Next is strategic goals. Align audit objectives with the organization's strategic goals and initiatives, as audits should contribute to the achievement of these objectives. Next, risk assessment. Prioritize areas with the highest risk, such as those vulnerable to cyber threats, data breaches, or significant operational disruptions. Next, historical findings. Review the findings of previous audits to identify recurring issues or areas where corrective actions are needed. Next is resource availability. Consider the availability of resources both in terms of audit personnel and budget to determine the feasibility of addressing specific audit objectives. Next is feedback from stakeholders. Seek input from relevant stakeholders, including management, to understand their concerns and expectations regarding the audit. Next one is to stay informed about emerging threats and vulnerabilities in the IT landscape, as these may call adjustments to audit objectives. Next, if applicable, obtain guidance from the audit committee or the board of directors regarding audit objectives and priorities. So, these are some of the reasons that you need to consider while coming up with objectives and priorities. Next question is, what tools and software do you commonly use in IT audits? First, audit management software. This type of software helps auditors plan, schedule, and manage audits efficiently. It also facilitates the tracking of audit findings, recommendations, and action plans. Popular audit management software includes Teammate, ACL, and Workiva. Next is vulnerability scanning tools. These tools are used to scan an organization's network and systems for known vulnerabilities. Common tools include Nessus, Qualys, and Rapid7 Expose. Next is Security Information and Event Management Systems, that is SIM solutions. These solutions collect and analyze log data from various network devices and applications to identify and respond to security incidents. Examples include Splunk, Azure Sentinel, IBM QRadar, McAfee ESM. Next is network and port scanners. These help auditors identify open ports, services, and vulnerabilities in an organization's network. Nmap is a widely used open source network scanner. Next is penetration testing tools. These are used to simulate cyber attacks and test an organization's defense. Common tools include Metasploit, Burp Suite, OWASP, ZAP. Next is data analysis tools. This is used to examine and analyze data for anomalies, fraud, or compliance violations. Examples include Microsoft Excel, ACL Analytics, and Tableau. Next is audit analytics software. These tools provide advanced data analytics capabilities for in-depth analysis of large data sets. Examples include IDEA, ACL Analytics, Exchange, and Power BI. Next is configuration management tools. These help auditors assess the configuration settings of hardware and software. Examples include Puppet, Chef, and Ansible. Next is database auditing tools. These are used for monitoring and auditing database activities and access. Popular options include Oracle Audit Vault and IBM Guardium. Next is remote desktop and administration tools. These tools enable remote access to systems for auditing purposes. Examples include RDP and SSH clients. RDP stands for Remote Desktop Protocol and SSH stands for Secure Shell. Next, we have File Integrity Monitoring Software, that is FIM. This monitors changes to critical files and configurations to detect unauthorized modifications. Popular FIM tools include Tripwire and OSSEC. Next one is password auditing tools. These test the strength of user passwords to identify weak or easily guessable passwords. Examples include John the Ripper and Hashcat. Next is compliance assessment software. These help auditors verify adherence to specific regulations and standards such as ISO 27001 or NIST. Some GRC solutions include compliance assessment features. Next is document management software. These facilitate the organization, storage, and retrieval of audit related documents and reports. Examples include SharePoint and Documentum. Next is data privacy and data loss prevention, that is DLP tools. DLP solutions help auditors assess an organization's data protection measures and compliance with data privacy regulations like GDPR. Examples include Symantec DLP, Microsoft DLP, and McAfee DLP. These specific tools and software used can vary depending on the organization's needs, the scope of the audit, and the auditor's preferences. It's important for IT auditors to be proficient in using these tools and to choose the ones that best suit the auditor's objectives and requirements.
Next question is, how do you assess and test the effectiveness of IT controls and what methodologies do you follow? First, control identification and classification. Begin by identifying and classifying IT controls, including access controls, change management controls, data security controls, and more. Assign control objectives and control owners, making it clear who is responsible for which control. Next is selection of a framework. Choose a relevant framework or standard to guide the assessment. Common frameworks include COBIT. COBIT stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technologies. COBIT provides a comprehensive framework for the governance and management of enterprise IT. It offers control objectives, practices, and maturity models. Next is NIST frameworks. Example, NIST SP 853. NIST stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST provides cybersecurity and information security frameworks that help organizations manage, risk, and protect critical information. Another framework example is ISO 27001. This framework is Information Security Management System, ISMS. This is an internationally recognized standard that focuses on information security management. Once you select the framework, next step is risk assessment. Perform a risk assessment to determine which controls are most critical and require thorough testing. Consider factors such as regulatory requirements, business impact, historical incidents, and emerging threats. Next one is control documentation review. Review the documentation related to IT controls, including policies, procedures, guidelines, and configuration settings. These documents serve as the basis for control testing. Next is control tests. Depending on the type of IT control, auditors may use various testing methods. Let's see some of them. Observation, that is to inspect the controls in action to ensure they are functioning as intended. Next is inquiry. Interview personnel to verify that controls are understood and followed. Next one is re-performance. Independently perform control actions to validate their effectiveness. Next, sampling. Examine a representative sampling of control instances or transactions. Next is analytical procedure. Analyze data and trends to identify anomalies or control deficiencies. Next, data collection and analysis. Collect data, evidence, and documentation related to control testing. This includes log files, access records, policy documents, and more. Analyze the collected data and evidence to assess whether the controls are operating effectively and in accordance with the control objectives. Next step is deficiency identification. If control deficiencies or weaknesses are identified, document these findings. Classify deficiencies by severity, for example, critical, major, minor, and assess their potential impact on the organization. Next is recommendations and reporting. Provide recommendations for addressing control deficiencies, including corrective actions and improvements. These should be practical and actionable. Summarize the results of control testing in an audit report, which typically includes an executive summary, detailed findings, recommendations, and management responses. Next is follow up and continuous improvement. Monitor the implementation of recommendations and the remediation of control deficiencies in follow up audits. Encourage the organization to continuously improve its IT controls based on audit findings and recommendations. So, the IT auditors may tailor their approach to address the organization's unique needs. The goal is to provide assurance that IT controls are designed effectively and are operating as intended to mitigate risks and protect the organization's assets and data. So that's it for today, guys. I hope this helped you understand a little bit about auditing. I will see you in another video with more questions on IT audit. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our videos. That will help us a lot. I will see you again soon. Until then, take care of yourselves. Bye bye.